Hello, my name is Shitiz Srivastava and this is my video blog. So today I am with Patrick von Schwosky. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes,
Schwosky.
very good.
Okay. Thank you. So Patrick has been part of Reliance Mediaworks and he's been the CEO of Adlabs, I guess. And he's a film buff. He owns a company called Cultpix, which has a unique collection of films which I haven't seen. There are only two, three films that I've seen of Bela Lugosi. Just to the film I don't even know the name of. So you have this huge collection of film that people haven't seen and all these things. We are going to talk about it later. And you also run a website called Celluloid Junkie, where you actually write articles about the film industry and festivals and all these things. So welcome to my channel.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
See, you have a huge profile, so it is very difficult for me to talk about everything that you have done. So I would just like you to start telling me how you entered into film industry, right from your childhood, how you got interested into this cinema.
Sure. So it's been a long journey, but it started really with my parents, who always very much encouraged me and my siblings to go to the cinema and experience films on the big screen. Back in those days, we had television and VHS, but there weren't many other ways of watching films. So, and I think this is very important. I think getting young people and children into the habit of going to the cinema is very important, a big challenge for the industry today, because otherwise there's a danger that cinema can die off. So we need to be inoculated at an early age with a love for cinema on the biggest possible screen. And that's really, I think, how I got started. And after that, same as many people, I wanted a way in, but I wasn't sure how to. So I applied for many different kinds of jobs, specifically in advertising. I was told that was the way into film. I applied to film school, didn't get in, fortunately. I would have been a very mediocre director at best. And instead, I ended up writing. And that was
so
my
you started
journey.
writing. Okay.
Yes, so I began writing for business journals about the movie industry. So, fairly boring thing. In fact, I wrote about television technology before moving into cinema, and I sort of begged my boss to let me write about anything to do with cinema. Yeah, I can write about popcorn sales or IMAX or Dolby Digital. And then I started writing about this new technology of digital projection. And this was about 20 years ago, which films back then were still being made on 35 millimeter reels, and they were shown on 35. So new technology was coming, and I was lucky to be one of the first people to write about it. So that made me sort of an expert in the way that, a one-eyed is a king, is ruling the kingdom of the blind. So after that, I did a lot of writing consulting. And then one day I decided I was tired of writing and consulting, and I could do it as well as the people I was writing and consulting for. And that's when I started working first for a company called Unique Digital that did advertising projectors, then for a US company called Deluxe that works with all the big film studios, and finally then with Adlabs and Reliance Mediaworks. So I lived in Mumbai, Amchi Mumbai, for 3 years.
For 3 years.
I worked for Anilji for another 2 years out of London when he was still very much involved in the film business. So those were amazing times. I loved my time in India and Mumbai and working at the heart of Bollywood, and I had such amazing colleagues and friends there that it was truly one of my life's greatest experience. I feel very privileged and very blessed to have been a very, very small part of this industry.
So did you see any Bollywood films before coming to India? Were you familiar with the Bollywood
cinema? I obviously, I was aware of Shah Rukh Khan, and obviously I'd seen the kind of more kitchen sink art house cinema, so Satyajit Ray and all those famous ones. But I wasn't that much familiar with the masala, or for that part, the sort of South Indian film industry or the other regions. So it was a steep learning curve, but very enjoyable. So I think when I arrived, the first film I saw was Johnny Gadar, and then first Diwali film was Om Shanti Om. So
Om Shanti Om, Shah Rukh Khan.
Yes. So it was a great experience. And after that, I went to the cinema once or twice a week, in addition to working on the film titles. So I soon became pretty familiar with the industry. So
but you will watch films with subtitles only?
But not necessarily. I would go and watch them even without subtitles. You know, I can understand, you know, there's
Visual
always a
language and
sprinkling
everything.
of English.
Mm.
And, you know, I started picking up a bit of Hindi. Toda, gora Hindi bon. So enough to understand. And it wasn't always the most complicated dialogue. So if you go and see a film like, you know, Dostana, you can make out, you know, pretty much what it's about. You don't need to follow every word. So I always enjoyed it very, very much.
And I have read that you were also involved with Gajini, digital something, digital.
Yes. So we had several firsts working at Adlabs and Reliance. So as well as
I would love to know about your experience working in Adlabs and Reliance.
Sure. So we, my colleagues were working on the production side and distribution side of films, as well as the post-production side. So I was in that brief moment of when the film is finished before it goes out in cinema. So we were responsible for taking that finished film, converting it into a digital file, huge digital file, you know, and then getting it out on hard drives or over fiber network, not just all across India, but you have to remember Indian films obviously go out globally on the same day. So we had to get it out to not just in Mumbai, but it had to go to Manchester, it had to go to Los Angeles, and we had to, and nobody else had done this before. Hollywood wasn't doing it. We were the first one.
Right now it is very easy because of the fast internet, but at that time, I think it would be challenging.
It definitely helped. So we were involved in this and several big projects like Gajini we worked on. And there was always a lot of time pressure because the producers and the editors, you know, would work on the film and tweak it until the very last moment. We literally had to sort of drag it out of their hands. Like, no, the film is opening in 3 days. We need a copy now to be able to send it out. But no, they just want to tweak it a little bit more. They just want to change something.
That keeps on happening in Indian cinema. Till the last moment, they keep making changes.
And after it's gone out, even if the film is not a hit, they will take it back,
they will change it again,
tweak it, to re-edit it, and push it out in the hope that it's going to do better. It's never-ending stress. So, but my colleagues and people who worked from it, I really did have an amazing team. And you know, Raul, Hari, I can't name them all, Nishit, but you know, they were amazing. But really, they worked every hour that God sent. And my joke to them was always, you know, if you don't show up for work on Saturday, don't bother coming into the office on Sunday. So it really was a 7 days a week kind of operation because we were always up against a deadline and some time pressure of finishing a film. So,
and I've also read that you have worked with Rohan Sippy as well.
Yes, we did. And we were very privileged in terms of all of the greats, really, because the fact that Adlabs had been the focal point for filmmaking in terms of nearly all the film prints coming through. And Krishna Ji was really, you know, the guru of making sure that those films got made. So he had all those personal relations with Yash Raj, you know, with Dharma, all the big studios there. They all trusted him. And we inherited that responsibility of sort of taking those relationships and not screwing up. That was the biggest thing. You know, he had built an amazing thing. So the number one thing for us was to just sort of not tarnish Krishna Ji's legacy. And you know, we were very, very fortunate in terms of being given the resources to make it happen, being given these great films to be able to work on, and you know, then getting them out into cinemas all across the world.
Acha, what do you like and dislike about the working of Indian film industry?
Good question. I like, it's often the same thing, you know, the chaotic nature of it sometimes. Back then, you have to remember this was a good almost 15 years ago. Things have become more streamlined then. Meant that everything was always a challenge. We were always making up new. There was never an established process. Having said that, having worked also with Hollywood films, it's not as if everything is smooth sailing with them. We definitely have our disasters, and we have, you know, personalities, nice people, horrible people to deal with. It's really no different. But the film industry, I think, brings out the best and the worst in people. And working under extreme deadlines and pressure, you know, you either come together and work together as a team and solidly, and you can have a bit of bust ups and bruises as well. The toughest thing I had to say was negotiating with Indian producers. They cut me no favors, and I, again, coming from a different cultural background, I went into meetings trying to find a win-win solution. What I didn't realize is only the producer is allowed to win. So, yes. So if there's a little bit of a win in it for me, then he hasn't, negotiated hard enough. So ultimately, I had to come in negotiation and sort of let them win completely over and just say, "Oh, my boss is going to kill me. This is the worst deal I've ever done with anybody. But you win. Okay, let's sign the paper."
So, Ajay, between US cinema and UK cinema working style, which one do you like more? I guess you have worked in Hollywood as well, right?
Sure. Yes, I've worked in Hollywood. I would say actually I got more out of it personally in terms of learnings and personal growth from working with Indian cinemas and Indian producers. It taught me much more, maybe because more I didn't know. But what I also like, and I want to pay tribute to not just Indian film producers, both in Mumbai and the South, and technicians, but also India has some of the most amazing cinema operators and multiplexes. Obviously, we have some great single screens and converted single screen. I used to live near the Chandan in Juhu, obviously in South Bombay.
Oh, you remember all these things? Yes. 15 years after leaving the place.
They are vivid to me. All the great old picture palaces in South Bombay I love. But also I have to acknowledge, people like PVR and Inox have just done a tremendous job of reinventing the cinema going experience. And yes, in the big metros, it is not maybe, the common man's, number one choice of cinema, because some of these, IMAXs and so on can be very expensive. But in fairness to them, they are also building cinemas and multiplexes in smaller towns and, tier 3, tier 4, where they are becoming affordable and still providing, I would say a better quality movie-going experience than was possible before. So India is blessed in terms of having great talent on the filmmaking side, but also visionary cinema operators who are taking this sort of cinema legacy and evolving it to the next level.
Okay, who is that one person that influenced you most while your term in India? Like some actor you have met or some director you have met?
Obviously, so many. Well, I could just list off all the stunning Bollywood actresses that I posted after on the big screen. But
now you can name them.
Yeah. Too many to choose from, and talented. I think I have to pay tribute to my boss, though, for the longest time, Anil Arjun, who took over from Adlabs, from the founder, and that was a very, very Manmohan Shetty, and that was a very challenging, obviously, role in terms of transforming the company. But I learned a lot from him, and it's really his approach of sort of never. He faced tremendous challenges, pressures, and yet I never saw him lose his temper. He was always calm, methodical, and brought out the best in people. So working with somebody like that is a tremendous blessing. It was anyway for me. I could not have done my job without knowing that my boss had my back, and his example inspired me in how I dealt with my colleagues and the people who worked for me in turn.
Okay, since I'm enjoying this conversation about India, I will ask you one more question. Okay, then we'll get back to cinema.
I'm enjoying it too tremendously. It's a wonderful trip down memory lane, especially because of COVID. I haven't been able to be back for almost 2 years now. I used to come back on average almost once every year since moving away from there. So, India is still, close to my heart.
So that one Indian dish that you tasted in Mumbai that you liked, like there is vada pav, there is samosa pav. I really want to know this.
I think it was actually obviously so many dishes, but in the staff canteen, I was introduced, having never had it before, to misal pav. And I know it's not the healthiest of snacks, but when you've been working, you just want something food to make you happy. Misal pav with pav, to soak it up. That always did the trick for me.
I'm really surprised that you remember all these names. Misal pav. But it's good actually. So let's go back to your journey. So what are the
Sure.
films that inspired you to enter into filmmaking? Like it happens sometimes, like when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of films, but there was some film that actually inspired me. Like I wanted to become a filmmaker. I wanted to create something like this. I wanted to enter into film industry.
Mhm.
So what was those things, those defining moments that at that time you realized, okay, now I want to become filmmaker or I want to enter into filmmaking?
I think I must have been around 10, and I was seeing films about, explorers and, airplanes and hot air balloons. And there's something about that adventure on the big screen that just sort of makes it real for you and transports you away and just sort of sucks you in. And especially when you had small TVs at home, and we've only just stopped in black and white. So um, it's the big sagas, it's science fiction films like 2001 and Blade Runner. Films create a different world and they invite you into that world, and therefore I want to be part of helping to create those kind of worlds and experiences for other people.
So you used to watch a lot of US films or more of a UK based film?
US
Because I've
films,
heard
but
that
also I'm originally from Sweden, so I watched a lot of Swedish film. I remember
Swedish
when I was
films.
Yeah, so not the Bergman ones, which obviously everybody knows
Everybody
about, but
was.
yeah, and they're good, but it's as if Satyajit Ray was the only Indian filmmaker. There have been other things since then. But he did a film called The Flight of the Eagle about a doomed expedition to the North Pole by hot air balloon or helium balloon. And I sat that at 10 and sort of remembered, being startled by these visions of the frozen North and big balloons traveling there. And after that, of course, the big Star Wars and all the, action films and diehards that just happening when I was those two. But my parents also took us see many art house films, so we got a taste for films from the Soviet Union, films from third world. So we always saw cinema as a window to the globe as a whole, not just the Hollywood side of it.
True. So after you decided you wanted to become a filmmaker, and I have read on your IMDb profile, I was checking your IMDb profile, and I saw that you have produced a film, but not directed a film. So why is that?
I was executive producer and for a film called Black Circle, a horror film.
Black Circle.
Great fun. So even though I didn't get into film school and I ended up working on the technical side, I've always obviously had a desire to be intimately involved with films. And so about, over 10 years ago now, a good friend of mine, a Swedish friend, Rickard, who set up a film distribution label for older films. And these were what I would call cult films, genre films. So they're not the Bergmans. They are, the old horror films, science fiction films, thrillers,
adventures, crime dramas, everything.
Crime dramas. There were a lot of nudie films because they were popular in Sweden.
They were popular, yeah.
So although film critics never loved these films, they had an audience, and together we've been bringing back some of these films at film festivals, on DVD, on Blu-ray now. And so
are these those kind of films, like they are so bad that they're good films, or they are
exactly those kind of things? So a lot of things about them are terrible. The dialogue, the acting, they didn't have much money for the costumes or sets, but they have a charm.
Like Ed Wood, that director Ed Wood used to make films with Bela Lugosi.
Exactly, those kind of films, but they're made with a passion, because
true.
You have to have that. If you don't have the money, you damn better have a lot of passion.
You from making a film.
Otherwise, you're not going to solve anything, because if you can't throw money at the problem, then you have to have. It's not that you want to make films, it's that you don't have a choice. If you don't, not making films is like
the best part about these films is that the director won't stop even after getting bad reviews or people not seeing it. They were all into this delusional zone where would they keep on making those kind of films.
Yes. And you mentioned Ed Wood, and that's a great example. Plan 9, Bela Lugosi died
from outer space.
The film.
He died, and he used his dentist actually.
And he used his dentist, exactly. So his dentist would walk around like this, pretending to be Bela Lugosi. This is what passionate filmmakers do. So anybody watching this, remember that you will have, 1,000 reasons or 1,000,000 reasons not to make your film. And there will be hundreds and hundreds of things that will try to stop you. but you have to push through, because if you have the passion, you will finish that project, you will make that film.
I think there are hundreds of reasons for not making a film, but there's only one reason to make a film, and that is that you want to make a film.
Yes.
That's why you make it. So how did you get into this thing that I will collect all those cult films and then I will start a website? And what is the business model of it?
Sure. So this is kind of the fourth act or third act in my life, having been sort of a writer and then, a business developer, and now doing this streaming business. So it's a company we call...
You like trying new things in life.
Yeah, new things, exactly. Because life changes, business changes, and you have to change with it.
Yeah.
So I told you we used to sell our films on DVDs. That market is now pretty much dead. There are a few collectors still buys things, but on the whole, it's dead. So people like streaming, the convenience. I can watch films anywhere, anytime, on any device, on this or on the cinema or big screen. So we decided we have to do this for our films. And because there isn't anything like this, I subscribe to Netflix. I like the things on there.
The only films that are very successful. They don't even care about the film that didn't work. Actually.
They don't bother so much with old films. So we'll make our own service with our type of films on. And over the years, we built up relationships with fellow like-minded people, men and women across the world who, also have released these kind of obscure old sci-fi horror films. And so we're in touch with them. And so we asked them, we're starting this thing. Can we license some of your films on our site? So we've got deals with Something Weird Video in US. We have Penny Video in Italy. We have Eurocine in France. We have Nikatsu in Japan. We're very much hoping to have from India too, and also more Far East content as well, martial arts film, that kind of thing. So we've only just started launched it 4 months ago. It took a lot of work preparation. We have over 500 titles on the site right now. Anybody can join. It's global.
Yeah, I've seen the website. It's good, actually.
Thank you. Yes, and you can browse and look through what type of films.
Such a good collection it has, actually.
And thank you. That's
so anyone listening to this interview, there's a link to that website in the description. You can check that website and see all those films, actually.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. So have a browse through the type of films, and some we put up there for free as well, so people can just enjoy them as a sample. But we've had a great response, and the idea isn't to be just another streaming service. There are so many streaming services out there. Our aim and our vision has always been that we want to be a global community for film lovers of kind of unusual films. And therefore, what's very exciting this autumn is that we're taking this streaming experience into real life. So we partnered cinemas in our native Sweden, but also in UK. We're going to be in other Scandinavian territories and other countries across the world, where we're going to be, showing these types of films, arranging get-togethers after COVID, when we can start meeting up in person, and just share a love for films, and we'll sell merchandising probably, although you never get rich on that, but at least you can wear your passion, you can wear your t-shirt with your logo, and just meet other people who love the same kind of films, and just talk to them. What do you love about this film? Or what recommendation you got? And we learn so much from the members of our site. They come to us and say, well, have you heard of this film? And I haven't heard of most films.
And then you start searching for it.
Yeah. And we have recommendations, and we get into dialogue, and again, it's that passion. It's that passion that drives people, and it's so fun to connect with people like that and learn from them. So it's been a really good. It's been challenging, but been good.
Sit with those kind of people with a similar minded set in cinema. Actually, it's a dream for any cinema junkie. I just talking about cinema junkie. I was just
and that because with this great interview series, I mean, you've spoken to some of the true greats in this industry, and you get them going and sharing. So you're in an incredible position, and this is an incredible resource for people out there who are interested in getting into the film industry and understand how it works. So credit to you.
Thank you for that. Ajay, now I want to talk about Celluloid Junkie. So I was going through your website and I thought, the name is very funny, Celluloid Junkie, but the articles are very serious. They're very technical
Yes.
articles about theatricals and distribution, marketing models and all. And you have taken interviews of lots of people. So was that the initial idea when you started the website, or it eventually became that serious?
After I lost my job, I was made redundant. Happened twice in my life. Everyone should expect that. You will get fired at some point. And
True.
fired
I've been fired
too.
so many times.
So you might as well just, expect it and hope that happens when you're young. So in between two jobs, when I had time, I wanted to keep a profile in the industry. And a colleague who was in a similar position said, this will tell you how long ago it was. There's this thing called blogging that's happening. I think it could be good for us. We should try blogging. And that way, people might remember us when there's a job available. And of course, a lot of time has gone by since then, and we've kept this blog going. And now it's more like a news resource. But at the time, the whole world was switching to digital. So we didn't want to be called digital cinema news or digital that. We're like, everything is going to be digital. It's like saying electric computers, show me a computer that isn't electric. Everything is digital in cinema. So we said, let's go for an old name. We picked, celluloid like film and junkie because we're passionate about it. So, and the name stuck. And the idea is really to write a business focus on the cinema industry specifically. We talk about films as well, but mainly about the Inoxes and PVRs and AMC cinemas and Odeons.
Something that not many people are talking about, actually.
Yes. So there are, it is being written about in other trade magazines like Variety and Hollywood Reporter, but they have a much broader focus. We try to home in on just the cinema side. And there's so much that's been happening there, the upgrade of experiences, the fact that there's so many new technologies from laser projection to Dolby Atmos sound around you.
Every day something new creeps in, actually.
Every time. And that's because cinema, we have to remember, is unique. It's been around for 125 years. That's true. Longer than any other audiovisual technology. LPs, there's a niche market for that. But other things have come and gone. Cinema has stayed because it has evolved. True. It keeps changing, keeps evolving. It keeps becoming something new and justifying its existence. And this is the important thing. It keeps attracting the great talent, the great storytellers of our time and previous times. They still want to tell stories for the big screen. Yes, David Fincher might go off and do a Netflix series, but really, he wants to create things for the big screen. And, the same is true for filmmakers across the world. Yes, they might play around with other technologies, but somehow they keep getting dragged back to the big screen.
Big screen, true. So I want to know one more thing. Are you an idolist, or you are someone who changes with time? Like Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese is an idolist. I want to work on Reels. I don't want Netflix. I don't want this kind of things. Are you like that? Or are you like, this good thing is happening. This OTT thing because of this COVID is good or bad for the cinema? I want to know your viewpoints on it.
That's a really, really good question. In day to day, I'm a pragmatist, so I know that things are changing. And the older I get, the more I have to stay flexible. Otherwise, I become a dinosaur, and we know what happens to those. But at the same time, I'm passionate about film and film history at heart. So my instinct is always to go back, and I don't want it to be exactly like it was 30, 50, 70 years ago, but I want to preserve that and use the technology that exists today to sort of bring it back or make it available to new generations. I'll finish on a funny anecdote. So I was staying with a friend recently, and her son, who's 21 years old, super knowledgeable about films. And he asked me a little bit about my job. Big mistake. So I opened up Cultpix and started showing him, and I said, and look at this. And I showed him a trailer for The Killer Shrews, which is a really bad horror film where, these mutant rodents, which, they couldn't afford special effects 50 years ago. So they put big ears on dogs and sort of had them pretend to be overgrown rats. But he found it hilarious. And then I showed him the original Superman cartoons from 1941. And it's such a good style because it was made for the cinema screen in color and Technicolor.
I saw the logo of it, Superman 1941, actually.
Yeah, it's
so amazing. Is that old? How did you find it?
It's that old. it's amazingly, it's 80 years old and it still looks, good enough to be shown in cinemas today. And it inspired people like Miyazaki, the Japanese director, and more recent thing like Batman the animated series. So if you can't see it on Netflix, search for clips on YouTube of sort of Superman 1941. It's incredible. And so it opened his eyes to this whole new universe. And I think if we can inspire that kind of passion in young generation to look at really, really older films and still find them cool and funny, and and take something from them that they wouldn't get just from watching the latest releases, then I think to me anyway, there's hope for the future of cinema.
Yes, there always is. But there's one thing that I've noticed recently is that because of the YouTube thing and there's too much information, too many films on so many platforms, that people are losing the patience. This young generation especially, they're losing the patience to watch a film like act one. They don't want to watch the act one. So most of the web series and most of the films directly start with the act two, or they have a parallel storyline where they show the background of the character later on. So do you think this is good? Like Netflix has also introduced this thing called you can watch the film in the 1x or 2x and 3x speed. Do you think it is good or it is wrong?
Yeah, and then they do. I know that people do it for podcasts as well. So I don't know.
Actually, I do it too on YouTube videos, basically, but not on not while watching a film or watching a web series.
No, and they're multitasking, so they're watching with one eye, and on the other eye they're
mobile, and there's 4 or 5 Chrome tabs are also open.
Yeah. So look, I'm not going to judge generation as I'm older. What's good about is the cinema is still that place where you can lose yourself. You can't fast forward or you can't pause it. You have to enjoy it like that. But at the same time, I would rather that young generations watched film in any way than not watching them at all. Than just only watching sports or doing something else. So even a little bit of cinema in a different format is better than no cinema at all. So hopefully it teaches them then, and they go on to appreciate it, in the cinema, maybe at normal speed.
I think that is why they don't like old films, because old films have their own pace. Director used to show things very slowly. That is the problem, I guess.
Yeah, and going straight from one to the other, it would be too much of a shock. I find a lot of, old films very boring and very.
There are certain films in 40s or 50s where the character would get out of the car and then they would show the entire sequence of him going through the stairs and stairs and stairs, and then he would go and open the door instead of just cutting from here to there, actually.
Yeah. So therefore, it requires people like us who can find them something that's old, but that was different, and even back then was cool, and even now it looks. And then maybe they go and it's like, oh, not everything old is bad. This one thing is cool, and then they find another thing, and pretty much gradually, it opens their eyes to the possibilities of all types of cinema, not just old cinema, but documentaries, foreign films, everything. It's a rich universe out there.
So in your website, Cultpix, which film would you recommend that anyone who's entering into your website should watch first? Which is your favorite film in your own website? Most funniest one, most classiest one, it doesn't matter. Favorite film?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to go for something, super cheesy in terms of bad dialogue, bad acting. It's a film called Killer Workout or Aerobicide. It's a sort of a slasher.
Killer Workout about those rodents only.
Yeah, so somebody's killing off people at a workout gym and everything. This is from the 80s, but it's really badly made, but it's funny. You watch and you realize, my God, we've moved on a long time since then. At least we make better horror films now.
And which is your favorite Bollywood film or Indian film? Any Indian film, any language?
Oh gosh, again, so much to choose from. Difficult one. If I had to choose one, it's hard not to choose one without Big B, because I could just sit and watch him and listen to his voice. I don't need to understand.
Have you met him?
Huh?
Have you met him while you term in India?
Yes, I did. He did a special preview at one of our cinemas, which was for one where he was playing together with his son, and there was role reversals. So he was playing his Abhishek's son, but he was aging prematurely.
Pa.
So
I guess the film's name was Pa.
Yeah, that's the one. So I did meet him there, and he is incredibly impressive in person, I'm
Yes.
literally looking up like this, and I'm pretty tall to begin with. So yeah, it would have to be. I think I'd pick, because it was one of the first films that we worked on. I think I'd go for Sarkar Raj,
Sarkar Raj, Ram Gopal
because
Verma.
it really showcases kind of, the intensity of filmmaking, especially with him. So that would be my choice.
So any plans of coming back to India?
As soon as travel restrictions are eased, I hope to be back for Diwali. The festive season is always my favorite time to be in India. So fingers crossed, but if not, I will definitely be back in 2022.
Whenever you are back, whenever you come to India, let me know, and we'll sit somewhere and have a cup of coffee. And we'll
Yes,
discuss
and
more
Mr.
about
Pal.
Indians now. And Mr. Pav, definitely. So it was very nice talking to you. So
It was super lovely
I
talking
had
to you.
so many questions, and I asked most of the questions that were in my mind. And I will definitely going to recommend everyone to go through Celluloid Junkie if they want to know about the world cinema, globalized cinema, and Cultpix. We have talked enough about Cultpix, and I'm going to watch a lot of films on Cultpix, and I'm going to message you that I watched this film that
Please
you
do.
recommended.
Please do. And send me recommendations, and tell me especially, what it is that you'd like to see on there, and make recommendations, especially from older Indian films, like cult films.
We'll definitely do. Thank you for coming to my channel.
Thank you for asking me on, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.